So let's talk about fucked up shit on Facebook.
You want to?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Dumb shit on Facebook.
It's been a good week for dumb shit on Facebook.
A lot. So this is the week of the, and we're not going to get too political right now, but
wrote a song about it. Want to hear it? Here we go.
Wrote a song about it. It would be great. I should have had the guitar ready. So I'm blowing out the mic here. Sorry. So it's the week of the Kavanaugh vote, the Supreme Court. Regardless of your political affiliation, this person was elected. I sincerely hope they do a good job. Okay. Whether or not they do, I don't know. I lean a little bit more towards the left myself, but trying to wish someone to do a bad job who's essentially in charge of the country and then the country's laws is like shooting yourself in the foot. So I hope they do I hope he does a good job.
What a good job is
yeah, being nonpartisan,
hard to define.
Being fair. It's hard to define, especially in that kind of realm. Mm-hmm. But
and it's different for a lot of different people.
Yeah, and only time will tell, but we'll see what happens. But, so I saw this thing on Facebook. So I love memes. Memes are funny. When used, Some of them, when used appropriately.
I saw this great one of, it was a Star Wars one, because I work it into every podcast. It's, in episode 3 when Anakin kills the younglings?
Yeah.
Well, it's Obi-Wan. You've seen this one. You know which one I'm talking about, probably.
I think.
Obi-Wan says, I've seen a video of Anakin killing younglings, but he says younglings instead. Oh. And they cut to Anakin just surrounded by younglings.
Oh, he just...
That's a good use of...
That is a good use.
Of the meme.
Have you seen the other one where it was like the origin of Snoke, and it's the one youngling that when Anakin pulls the lightsaber out, it's the one that's up front, and it's like his picture, and then it fades into Snoke's face. No. And I was like, because they kind of look alike. They really do. When you put them face to face, and I was like, oh, that'd be great.
That's probably him.
That'd be so great. So yeah.
He survived.
But yeah, so I like memes when they're used solely for humor. The thing that I don't like about memes, especially in modern culture.
I mean, you can make ironic comments.
Yeah, ironic comments are fine. But too often, they replace actual conversation.
Yeah.
So people use them to express a political viewpoint or whatever the case may be, and that's their viewpoint. Mm-hmm. They don't actually discuss why they feel that way or what they believe. They just put up a picture with some shit that somebody else wrote, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And it takes away it takes away critical thinking. It takes away honest discourse, and in that environment, it's dumbing down our culture. Mm-hmm. So this person, it wasn't a meme at first. They shared a tweet from James Woods, and he basically said, the media is bashing Trump for supposedly making fun of Ford's testimony, okay? But the week prior, Saturday Night Live was making fun of Kavanaugh's testimony, and Jimmy Kimmel and Stormy Daniels were talking about Trump's penis, okay? Mm-hmm. So I agreed with what this person was trying to post. I said, you're right, that's unfair. We can't make fun of people, and they get angry when they make fun of people that we care about. Yeah. Okay? So
if you're going to do that, let's realize how ridiculous it is.
You have to draw a line in the sand, and what applies for you or applies for someone else. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I said, that's a fair point. But the only caveat I had to that is I do believe that the President of the United States, who should be the best representation of this country, it's supposed to represent the best of us, he's the leader of the free world, should be held to a higher standard than a comedy show or a late night TV show host. Okay? That's all I said. I feel like that's a pretty generic term, a pretty vanilla statement that shouldn't offend a lot of people.
Yeah, but you would hope that we would have the president that represents the best of us.
Should be held to a higher standard. Yeah. That's it. I wasn't bashing him. I didn't say anything negative about it. I just said he should be held to a higher standard. Yeah. And the government or government officials should be held to a higher standard.
Unfortunately, the person that was elected isn't that person.
And
honestly, he was elected by the people because he wasn't that person.
Yeah. Because he wasn't afraid to speak his mind.
He wasn't that better person. He was just one of them.
One of them. And that shouldn't be
I heard that from, I talked to a large swath of the community because of my job. And the majority of the people who supported Trump that I spoke to liked him because of the way he spoke. He's like, he sounds like us. He sounds like me. He just says whatever he's thinking, which to me is fucking asinine. that you should probably think before you speak, but most people don't. They just want verbal diarrhea all over everything, and that's what they love about them.
I can understand making a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
But when you become kind of willfully ignorant to the things that they're saying, just because they sound like you doesn't mean that that's a good representation of the person you are or the person that we want to be. You know, he literally said he would grab somebody by the pussy. Yeah. That's on tape. That kind of person shouldn't be president. But that's another episode. So the person who shared this, you know, I think the president should be held to a higher standard. So I had this one person, there was two people, but one person in particular just started bashing me. He immediately called me a troll, started insulting me, like cursing and all this stuff. And that's all I said. I think the president should be held to a higher standard. I didn't use any foul language. I wasn't insulting him. I just said he should be held to a higher standard. And he kept just like throwing all this weird like right-wing propaganda, conspiracy, just like just everywhere. And then he started talking about Kavanaugh, which I didn't even say anything about Kavanaugh. He's like, you're destroying somebody's life and you're doing this and that. And I'm like, I didn't say anything about him. I just said the president should be held to a higher standard, and now you're going on all these wild tangents. But he kept posting all these stupid memes, like about liberals, about Obama, about all these different things that had nothing to do with the conversation. But I guess he felt like because they were, you know, funny, I guess, he was getting one up on me. So he just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I'm like, dude, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and these memes add nothing to the conversation. It's literally nothing, you know. And then I went to explain that why I don't like using memes in political conversations. And his exact words, this grown man, he looks like he's in his 40s, and he looks pretty respectable. He's a clean-cut guy. He looks nice. Was like, oh, you just don't like memes because you can't make funny ones, and that's why you hate them. Yeah, that's how I judge my opinion. That's how I judge the value of my opinion. Is through memes, through what other shit that other people made that supposedly represent what I believe. You know, and I told him it's not that. It's just because, again, the points that I just made. It's dumbing down our culture. It's leaving less room for civil conversation, which is what I'm trying to have with you.
It's oversimplifying.
It's either oversimplifying or overpolarizing. Yeah. So it's either something. It's either like a really watered down version of something that they might believe in, or it's super like condensed. You know, that in reality there's so many more layers to that issue, but they're trying to just capture it all in this one picture in these few words. And that's that's part of the thing that's destroying us.
That's not thinking.
It's not thinking.
No, it's jabbing.
Yeah. And he even said, well, you know, you don't think for yourself and all this. I'm like, you're literally sharing all this shit that other people made, and you're telling me that I don't think for myself.
And that's where you're representing yourself. I had a very similar experience with a liberal, a very virulent liberal, and a good guy, a guy I like. He posted this meme of a child from the Holocaust. And a child that's being detained at the border. And they told the story of, like, you know, trying to say that there's a similarity between the two. And in my head, I'm thinking, and I told this to him on the internet. I said, while I find that policy repugnant of detaining children and separating them from their families just for coming here illegally, it's totally different scenario, and you can't even compare these two
unless you make such broad strokes with
incredibly
children
broad
and
child and government doing something to interfere in their life. Yeah, that's a huge broad stroke, but it's not even anywhere near the fact that, like, Holocaust. They took. They're stopping families who are trying to come into our country illegally, and they're separating them. I find it repugnant. But that's what the scenario is. They're coming into our country illegally. They're stopping them and detaining them. And to compare that to a government going into someone's house in their own country, removing them from that, and murdering them,
or
enslaving them, and murdering
starving them. I mean,
is totally different. Totally different. I haven't heard one instance of a child at the border being gas chambered.
Yeah.
Let's just get real with that. But we are at a place right now or you can't hear that anymore.
Yeah, everything's Hitler.
They don't
Or
want to
everything-
hear that.
Everything is the worst possible thing that it
Yeah.
could be, and it's not.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
it didn't start with Trump. I mean, I'm guilty of being in my 20s and posting Hitler shit about Bush.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 40 now, and I thankfully have realized that, like, there's no need to ramp this up. There's no need to keep getting more and more irrational, because
Yeah.
where it's going to lead us.
Yeah.
It's going to lead us to a point where we just don't even talk anymore. We're going to fight.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
And that's
the only
it's
thing
getting
that's left.
dangerously close to that.
Yeah.
So, and because you have, you know,
Because what else is there left to do?
nothing.
Yeah.
When you can't
if you
talk
can't
about
even
it,
hear a person
Yeah.
anymore.
Then-
and this is a liberal talking to a liberal.
yeah, yeah,
Do something not liberal enough.
yeah,
You know, and that's what turned me on about those intellectual dark web guys like Brett Kavanaugh, and Jordan Peterson, and those guys. Was it? I want to make sure it's Brett, not Kavanaugh. It's not. His name is Brett Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Weinstein. No, Stein. One of those. He was the professor out at this uber liberal college in California who was objecting to a no whites day at their school.
Yeah,
They said for one day, all white people are not going to come to school, just for one day, like some kind of demonstration of inclusion or something, which is ridiculous because you're excluding white people.
Yeah.
So he's like, I mean, he's this like shorts wearing liberal biologist
Yeah.
at some tiny school in California. You don't get much more liberal than that, but he got out liberal and fired because of that.
yeah,
Because he stood up to the policy like saying it's irrational to say you are excluding a person in the name of inclusion.
of inclusion. Yeah, but they don't want to hear that. They want to hear that, and it's interesting.
But then you're painted as a racist for saying that, which is ridiculous.
If anything, so, and I've had these conversations before too, and not that it gives me any more authority than anybody else, but my stepfather is black. I was raised with him and his family.
Well, it gives you an authority in the sense that you lived in a different scenario that most people haven't.
Yeah. So I mean, like I was raised with him and his family, and you know I got a lot of shit for that from certain people because he was black and my mom was white. You know, and when you look at all these things, and it's not just with race. Pick any topic, any side of any argument. You have people yelling at the other side for certain things that they're doing. But when people on their side do the same thing, it's okay. And that is wrong. Okay? So when you say that person's a racist, all white people are shit. You're doing the same you know you're doing the same thing that you're yelling about. You know, like if you say, you know, all Republicans do X, Y, or Z, and then your party's doing the same shit. They're saying the same things. They're using the same dirty tactics. But you're like, oh, it's okay. You know, for instance, so like, let's say with Kavanaugh and like Clinton, I know they're different positions, but it's kind of similar situations. They had to be investigated. Liberals are like, oh, well, don't investigate. You know, there's nothing there. There's no emails. Well, the right, whether you agree with it or not, believes the same thing about Kavanaugh. At least some of them do. Like, oh, he shouldn't go through this process. You're destroying his credibility. Just like a lot of people on the left thought you were doing about Hillary during the email thing. You can't pick favorites just because they're on your team. There's a due process. If someone is accused of something, they need to be investigated. After the investigation, a valid investigation,
Certainly.
the chips fall where they do. You know, so you can't just not want it to happen on your side because it's your side, but expect it to happen on the
But in
other
this
side.
polarized environment, it's very easy to fall prey to that tribalism.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what it is. It's tribalism.
to where if your guy does it, you just want to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, people love the way the economy is going right now, and they will accept a pussy grabber president because of that.
Yeah.
You know.
That one thing.
Yeah.
The economy.
Yeah.
But at the risk of alienating
Or also getting the judges on the Supreme Court who
to be conservative.
are conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or
there's
at
a
least
number of
vote
things.
conservative.
And there's a number of things that they've sold their souls for, to be honest, and sold our country down the goddamn tubes. But
But to pretend that doesn't happen on your side.
your side, yeah.
is bullshit.
Yeah, and that's something that I've learned recently, and I've fallen prey to myself. I can't say that I haven't, and I have to admit to myself that I have backed the party line many times.
Same.
Yeah.
You know, I voted Democrat. I checked the box that said Democrat. It didn't matter what you had to say. If you're a Republican, you were wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong for that. And
Certainly.
if you do that, you're wrong for that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something you have to acknowledge as a person, and you have to realize that you have to expand, you know, your opinion. You have to learn other people's points of views and really get a full picture of what's going on instead of just saying, I'm a Democrat and we do this, they're Republicans and they do that. So, because that's how I was for a long time. You know, if you were a Republican, you had something to say, I didn't care. It was bad. And then I got more towards the center. I'm still left leaning for a couple issues, but you know, I try to stay as well informed as possible and base my decision on actual facts.
I'm finding that my experience with other liberals is making me more centrist.
Because of how extreme some of them are getting?
Yeah.
Because they want to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
You know, you get this battle cry of like, this is the enemy. It's like sports teams. You know, people live vicariously through their sports teams, right? And they just want to beat the other team no matter what. So if the other team does anything that even remotely looks like a foul, the ref should have done something.
Yeah.
But if someone on their team commits a foul, oh, it's no big deal.
It was nothing. They got it wrong.
It's not a big deal. So what?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what politics is becoming. They're like sports teams.
Certainly.
You know, it's just like it doesn't matter what happens as long as we beat the other team. And that's a big tactic that both of them use. But now that the Republicans are in power, they're really doing it. It's like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care if there's any logic behind it. If you oppose me, I'm going to try to crush you.
Yeah.
That's it. If Democrats gain power in the next election, it's going to be the same thing, the way it's going. So if they get the House, it doesn't matter what you have to say.
It's just going to go bad again on the other side.
It's going to be this exact same thing. And then Republicans who are bitching about, you know, liberal snowflakes are going to be exhibiting the same behaviors that those liberal snowflakes are doing.
I mean, give me a break. Like Mitch McConnell is out there talking about how Democrats are obstructing this process and it needs to happen. But they did the same. They stole the Supreme Court nomination from Obama. They just literally stole it from him by saying we're not going to allow it to happen. We're going to let the American people decide. And where is it written in the United States Constitution that the American people will decide who a justice of the Supreme Court is?
Well, not only that.
It's just the president. It doesn't
not only
say
that,
the people.
they didn't even interview the guy.
No, they wouldn't allow it.
Even if they put on a show of like, okay, we'll talk to the guy. That would have been something. That would have been a modicum of respect.
Sure.
Even if they had done that and they didn't do it.
Not for Obama, but for the presidency of the United States, or for the Constitution.
Yeah. Like, but they didn't. They refused.
Yeah.
But now all the Republicans who are talking about Democrats trying to block the Kavanaugh vote,
it's
it's being a hypocrite. It's being a hypocrite. So,
and that goes back to your concept of when a foul is called on your team, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. And how
it's
often,
the same thing.
How
now.
often do Trump supporters justify Trump's behavior?
Yeah.
That is shitty behavior. Like, regardless of policies or whatever, just like the day-to-day shit that he says, right? If Obama had been on Twitter as much as Trump was, they'd be in fucking arms. They'd be up in arms. Why is he on Twitter? They bitched about Obama golfing so much and how much money he was spending, and Trump did more than Obama did in 8 years in a year.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Those are numbers.
In 1 year, the numbers, Don't even talk about it. Don't even bring it up.
You can't do that. You can't just turn a blind eye to your people because they're your people. You have to be brave and acknowledge when something is wrong.
Or just honest, you know. And the only thing that I hope that comes from the cacophony that we live in right now, from the madness that we live in right now, is that the only way to go is up. The only way to go. I mean, when the bottom falls out, and I'm not saying we haven't hit the bottom, you know.
Yeah.
But when it does, the only thing left is rationality. The only thing left is truth.
Or it's a hyper tribalism of it's us versus them.
Well, certainly. And then it doesn't matter because one side's going to win.
Yeah.
And then it'll be their country.
So.
And we'll all die.
That. So we're so busy worrying, like fighting amongst ourselves, we're not even paying attention about what Russia or China or whoever might be, you know.
Certainly.
It's just barely there in the news compared to all the infighting.
It's all domestic right now.
Yeah.
Domestic garbage.
So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I had my first experience with that. You know, you hear these stories about families fighting over it, and it kind of politics ripping families apart and things like that these days. But I had my very first experience of that this week, where a friend of mine, a family friend for a long time, we've knew each other since we were children. She lives out in California now, and she's just, since this Kavanaugh stuff has come on, she's very politically active, and she's been on this like man hate, but basically talking about how this is, you know, men have ruined the world and it's left up to women to clean it up and get your shit together and blah blah blah. Men are terrible. She's like going off on that. So out of respect for our lifelong relationship, I private message her on Facebook, to send her a private message and said, hey, could you like cool it with the man hate? Like, I'm a man and I'm not like that, you know, and not all of us are like that. And like, I try to raise my daughter to be a true individual, and I was a stay-at-home dad for a long time, and I have a business, and I don't drink too much, and I put my kids to bed every night, and like, I'm a good dude. You know what I mean? So don't lump me in with the Brett Kavanaughs of the world. But I didn't put that on her public posts because you're my friend and I respect you, and I just want to have this conversation. Doesn't respond to me at all. Doesn't respond to me. Day later, she writes about thanking. She's like, I need to take time to thank the good men in my life. Doesn't list me as one of them. And goes on to say that if you think that women's anger has nothing to do with you, maybe you need to reconsider yourself or something like that. And I just thought, like, how does it end up there like that? Like, I didn't do anything to you other than respect you. I didn't go out into the public discourse and say, quit being an asshole. I did it privately. I said, stop lumping me in with that. I'm not like that. You know who I am. And when you say all men, that includes me, and I don't feel like I'm that. You know? But she didn't have the audacity to, or she didn't have the respect to like tell me off to my face. She went on to the public discourse to do it. You know what I mean? Because that's the way we talk right now.
I mean, everybody
and
has...
it's just sad that like we can't even talk anymore.
Everybody has a stage.
I
mean, and through social media, they have a stage, and they play to that stage. They play to that audience. There's a false sense of importance there, or self-importance. So, I mean, and that's what happens. Like stuff like that, people don't want to talk one-on-one. They want to put it out to the crowd and have it judged, you know, by their group of friends. They live in this echo chamber.
And if you're not the kind of guy who's out there like self-promoting yourself on the internet about how great and positive you are for women's issues, then you're a woman hater.
It's this false sense of self-importance and this false sense of worth for other people if they don't share certain things on their social media, and it's bullshit. It has nothing to do. I mean, I know a bunch of amazing people who don't have any social media accounts, but they are involved in their community. They are proactive. They volunteer, but since they don't show on Instagram that they're giving money to a homeless person, no one gives a shit. And it's bullshit. So, and one thing.
But they're truly making a difference, and not just armchair commenting on things.
Or trying to put up a front like they're a good person. You know, like so many people on Instagram giving money to the homeless or buying food, but they got to put it like, hey, I'm doing this for you, bud.
Check it out.
Here's the
watch me give this.
Fuck them.
You
know, like they're just doing it to blow their own ego.
For themselves.
To jerk themselves off. That's
Absolutely.
it. So
absolutely.
It has nothing to do with the actual character of who they are or who you may be, you know, through your actions.
And in that respect, we have the president that we deserve.
Exactly.
Because that's exactly who he is. He is us. And like, if you want a perfect example, just look to the highest office in the land.
And that was the first. That's the first time that I was like, yep, and that's what we deserve right now. So
he is us.
So I can't see it getting much worse. You know, I mean, but I know people who support him are not going to agree with that, and that's fine. That's your opinion. The only thing that I ask is that you step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, do some actual research, learn other points of views, and attempt to compromise. Because if we don't compromise, things are just going to keep getting worse. It's one team, one fight, or to say, it's one bird but two wings.
And say shit for yourself. Don't post memes.
Yeah, don't post memes.
If you have something to say, if you have a statement to say, take 15 minutes
Yeah.
and write it
Or
down.
if you post a meme, be able to
and read
just,
it
yeah.
and think about it, edit it, and then post it.
Yeah, and if you post a meme, be able to justify what you mean by that.
Yeah. Because it's an effective tool.
It's an effective tool, but you have to
think about what
actually-
you're saying.
You actually have to know what you mean instead of just throwing up all this other shit you get, for fake internet points.
Like Anakin killing younglings.
Yeah.
Yinglings.
Yinglings.
That makes sense.
Yinglings. We got pretty deep
We did.
and mildly drunk.
This is the American Music Podcast.
This is the American Music
Brought
Podcast.
to you by Planner's Hot Roasted Penis. Get a can for yourself today. Pop open a can of Planner's Penis.
I think, yeah, that's the one.
Chock full of nuts.
Chock full of nuts. Salty nuts.
Planner's Penis.
Planner's penis. There we're done.
That's a wrap. That's a crap.